All right, everybody. Hello, hello. Welcome back to today's class. It's going to be a very short tutorial on one of the DSC poems in our 2025 syllabus. Welcome to It's K to be Karen. If you haven't subscribed, feel free to do so. If you would like to purchase any of my study notes, feel free to reach me out at the email address, which is displayed in the link in the description below. If you would like to have tutorial classes, or if you would like to have one-on-one sessions, whether it be group or one-on-one sessions online, feel free to reach out to me at my email address. Today, one of the specific poems that I would like to discuss about is because this poem can be seemingly very confusing in the first glance, but it's not confusing, and we're going to clear a few clarifications here. We're going to have this tutorial split into two parts, which is going to be 10 minutes each. This would be the goal. And if you have any questions along the way, feel free to reach out to me. If not, let's start without any further ado. So today, the poem we will be talking about is called Nobody Loses All the Time by Cummings. Okay, so there's a couple of things. Now, when we read the poem, it's very important you read through the poem yourself once. Once you read through it, you scan through any words you're not sure of. Once you've done that, you read through it again one more time to start getting the gist of the poem with those words that you've written, with the definitions you've produced and written. Once you've done that, you read through it one last time to see if there's any analysis you can derive. So I usually suggest that reading it 4 times, 3 to 4 times, can give you a very good idea in the first time of reading a particular poem. Now, some people might want to read it more than just 3-4 times, and that's perfectly fine. You know, sometimes you want to read it 10 times. So do what works for you. Now, I'm not going to go through reading this because I'm assuming that this is a poem that you can read by yourself because it's in your syllabus. So we will go ahead and go straight into our second step, which is looking through the definitions of some of the maybe not very common words, and then we will go through our analysis, right? So it starts off with this one stanza of this one line, which it says, nobody loses all the time. We have her second stanza and her third stanza here, each with 6 lines each. So when you have 6 lines in a particular stanza, we call that a sestet. Okay, that's what it refers to. Now, a couple of words that can be seemingly confusing. For instance, we have vaudeville, which basically refers to a light, often theoretical piece. Okay, so that's what it kind of refers to here. When you talk about indulge, it's kind of like when you're fantasizing something, or not even fantasizing. It's kind of like you're enjoying the pleasure of something. So you're enjoying something. And then highfalutin is when you're overdoing something. So when you're overdoing or pretending to do something, or you're making something sound big, but it's actually not that big. Okay. So these are the words that I think can be the most commonly unknown words. Inexcusable is pretty self-explanatory, but in short, it means unforgiving. Okay, so those were a couple of words that I think you should be aware of. So at the first stanza of this poem, it's just a single line, right? It's a sole line that we have, one sole line, so only a line itself. And this helps to set the foundation of the poem. This is what it does. Now, the speaker of, that was interesting. Okay, so the speaker of our poem is in fact Uncle Sol's nephew. Okay, and he is talking about his uncle. So this is a very important thing to kind of get the idea of. So here it says, I had an uncle named Sol who was born a failure, and nearly everybody said he should have gone into the vaudeville, perhaps because my uncle could sing Matt Can, he was a diver on Christmas Eve like hell itself, which may or may not account for the fact that my uncle's soul indulged in that possibly most inexcusable of all, to use a highfalutin phrase, luxuries, that is, or to wit farming, and be it needlessly added. So because one important thing to know is that E. Cummings does not like using capitalizations in his words. It's usually not that common unless he wants to specifically, he wants us to understand something, right? So then he would put a capital letter, otherwise he would not. There is also a lack of punctuation marks, which is something we can see in this poem, right? So we don't have a lot of punctuation marks here. Here you would see the words are capitalized because he wants us to know that this is a song title. Okay, so what are these three stanzas even telling us? So it first starts off and it says nobody loses all the time. So that's kind of telling you maybe that this is the main idea of the poem, right? It's helping you set the foundation of the poem. Okay, this is what we are aiming for here. And then after that, it says, so he starts talking about his uncle, right? So he gives an example of why he believes in that message. And this is where the poem will kind of go through. That's like the body. So you can think of like this sentence as kind of like your bread on the top. And there's going to be some stanzas here. At the very end, we have a bread covering it. So it's like a proper hamburger if you think about it. So in our second paragraph, it says, I had an uncle named Soul. So his uncle was called Soul. And you can kind of see how it kind of links with the sound of soul, right? It's very like similar, which could mean that it has something to do with soul at the very end, maybe. So it could be like a foreshadow. That's maybe one way you could take it. Now, moving forward, he said, so his uncle's soul was born a failure. So he was maybe unlucky, right? And everybody told, so basically what it says after that is everybody told him to kind of go and have his career in that singing field because he was very good, because he could sing this particular song, right? So because he could sing this particular song, everybody, like the society or the community he lived in, people expected him to have a career off of in the singing field. But Uncle Soul thought that it was much more better. It was a way for him to earn money and have the luxuries in the farming field. So he decided to go into the farming field. And this is what these two stanzas kind of tell us. Now, there's a few things you can note is that the society expected him to sing, right? Now, in the next few paragraphs, it talks about his failure, which we will see next in our next class. So stay tuned for that video. But I'm just going to highlight the fact here that here you'd be able to see that the society expected him to be a singer, and maybe this would mean that maybe the next few failures that he experiences in his farming career, you know, it's more prone to the public's eye. So whenever he faces failure in the farming field, in his farming career basically, it's more prone to getting taunts, and it's more prone to getting negative feedback and negative opinion. Whereas if he pursued his singing career and had some failures, it wouldn't be seen or perceived as the same way. So this was a little bit on my perspective on these three stanzas, and I will stop here for now to make sure the video is not too long. And for our next tutorial of part 2 of this poem, feel free to hop on to the next one in the same playlist. And yeah, thank you so much for joining this, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.